All right, guys. So I regret to inform you that the climate apocalypse is here. It is here. Carbon dioxide levels are highest in human history. Humans pumped 36 billion tons of the planet-warming gas into the atmosphere in 2021, more than in any previous year. It comes from burning oil, gas, and coal. The amount of planet-warming carbon dioxide in the atmosphere broke a record in May, continuing its relentless climb, scientists said Friday. It is now 50% higher than the pre-industrial average before humans began the widespread burning of oil, gas, and coal in the late 19th century. There's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now than at any time in the last 4 million years. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration officials said the concentration of the gas reached nearly 421 parts per million in May. The peak for the year, as power plants, vehicles, farms, and other sources around the world continued to pump huge amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Emissions totaled 36.3 billion tons in 2021, the highest level in human history. Now, let me just say, I remember when people talked about 400 parts per million being the point of no return. That once we cross that line, we're screwed. We're screwed. You're going to have catastrophic effects as a result of that. Now we're at 421 parts per million. We're way above that 400 line. Kind of scary, isn't it? Kind of scary. As the amount of carbon dioxide increases, the planet keeps warming with effects like increased flooding, more extreme heat, drought, and worsening wildfires that are already being experienced by millions of people worldwide. Average global temperatures are now about 1.1 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Fahrenheit higher than in pre-industrial times. Growing carbon dioxide levels are more evidence that countries have made little progress toward the goal set in Paris in 2015 of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the threshold beyond which scientists say the likelihood of catastrophic effects of climate change increases significantly. They are a stark reminder that we need to take urgent, serious steps to become a more climate-ready nation. Rick Spinrad, the NOAA administrator, said in a statement, although carbon dioxide levels dipped somewhat around 2020 during the economic slowdown caused by the coronavirus pandemic, there was no effect on the long-term trend. Peter Tanz, a senior scientist with NOAA's Global Monitoring Laboratory, said in an interview, the rate of increase in carbon dioxide concentration just kept on going, he said, and it keeps on going for about the same pace as it did for the past decade. So, guys, the thing that we need to realize is you can actually view this as an opportunity. Like FDR looked at the Depression with all the pain and all the suffering and the economic devastation, and he used that as an opportunity to fix the system. Let's do the New Deal. You can do the same thing with this. That's why people talk about a Green New Deal. Now, there's different versions of it. I think some of them are not specific enough on this issue, but the whole concept of let's do a Green New Deal, transition off of fossil fuels, move to green and renewable technology, move to electric vehicles. You can have a giant economic boom as a result of that. A giant economic boom. You can create so many jobs. You can make the U.S. the manufacturing hub of the world again. We can lead the world on this stuff. We can develop the patents and have them here, which will make it so that in this global economic competition, we rise above everybody else. You can look at this as an opportunity for growth. And so you would get the benefit of fighting back against climate change, but also the benefit of an economic boom and jobs and even profit being created. But you just need to dedicate yourself to it. Now, the reason why we haven't, and everybody knows this, is the influence of oil money and natural gas money, just the whole fossil fuel industry, all the various dirty energy industries. They've basically bought the entire Republican Party here in the U.S., but they've also bought a handful of Democrats like Joe Manchin. And so they block any sort of movement in the right direction. And so here we are. Every time you see an article on climate change or a study, they always say, look, it's worse than what scientists said was the worst case scenario. How many times have we seen that? And so, I mean, this article should terrify people because, and I also think people don't do a good enough job talking about all of the real downsides of climate change. You know, the one that's floated from time to time is like, well, rising sea levels. Yeah, that's true, and that's a huge problem. And, you know, there are cities like New Orleans or Miami that could be gone eventually, right? That's a huge problem. But There's other things that aren't discussed, like the fact that there's going to be wars over water, and there's going to be famines, because there's not enough fresh water, and the growing seasons are all fucked up. Here's another one. This is an argument that should work on conservatives if they're using their brains. The Middle East is becoming literally uninhabitable. One of the regions hardest hit by climate change is also one least equipped to deal with it. This summer, this was in 2021, this summer, several picturesque countries in the Middle East became tinder boxes as extreme temperatures and severe droughts ravaged the region, forests burned, and cities became islands of unbearable heat. In June, Kuwait recorded a temperature of 53.2 degrees Celsius, 127.76 degrees Fahrenheit, while Oman, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia all recorded over 50 degrees, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. A month later, temperatures in Iraq spiked 50 to 51.5 degrees, 124.7 degrees Fahrenheit, and Iran recorded a close 51 degrees, 123.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Worst of all, this is just the start of a trend. The Middle East is warming at twice the global average, and by 2050 will be 4 degrees Celsius warmer as compared with the 1.5 degree mark that scientists have prescribed to save humanity. So they say, some people say by 2050, others say by 2100, the Middle East will be literally uninhabitable. Now let me ask you a question. Where do these people go? When this happens, where do these people go? There's going to be a giant refugee crisis and a giant immigration issue. And conservatives are not going to like that. But if you say, hey, we can address this now by transitioning off of fossil fuels, they also don't like that. So, a little bit of a rock and a hard place, isn't it? So, unfortunately, look, in many ways, I don't fancy myself a doomer, but I think when it comes to climate, man, I'm really close to just being a doomer. Because we're at the point now where it's like, not only do we need to transition quickly, we also need new technology to help get us there. Finding a way to vacuum the greenhouse gases out of the air or some shit. And I don't know if that exists. I don't know if that will exist, but this is not a good sign. None of this stuff is a good sign. And I guarantee you this won't get nearly the press that it deserves. That carbon dioxide levels are the highest in human history. That's astounding. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.